I'm joined now by California Congresswoman Judy Chu, who introduced a bill in September that would have codified Roe. She was arrested at an abortion rights rally near the Capitol last week. Congresswoman Chu, we appreciate your being with us. You were obviously willing to get arrested to draw attention to this issue that affects so many Americans. Specifically, what more do you want to see the White House and President Biden do right now?
The White House has already been very responsive. First of all, I was very glad that President Biden made the statement that he thought that there should be a carve out for the filibuster for abortion. That is where we're stuck as far as the Senate. We need 2 more votes to eliminate the filibuster, and then we could get the Women's Health Protection Act passed and signed into law, and it would enshrine the protections of Roe versus Wade into law, therefore protecting every woman in every state. But on top of that, I hope that the Biden administration will indeed push the fact that abortion medication has been approved by the FDA, and there is not a state jurisdiction that can overturn an FDA decision, and that this should be enforced in every state, regardless of whether they banned abortion or not.
And of course, now, Congresswoman, those abortion pills obviously account for more than half the abortions in this country right now. You talk about the desire to get those 2 votes that you need among Democratic senators to be able to overcome the filibuster. The votes aren't there right now, even though Democrats obviously control the Senate. What we're witnessing now is more a consequence of 2016 than it is of 2020. So how do you message to those frustrated, those disheartened Democrats that voting in the election this fall alone may not be enough, that this could be a long-term fight for the party?
Well, actually, we could turn things around with this coming election. We do need 2 more senators to eliminate the filibuster and to vote for the Women's Health Protection Act. We have senators like John Fetterman in Pennsylvania
and you need to hold the House,
Barnes.
Of course.
Of course, that on top of everything else. But these are things that are within our reach. These are things that people's votes can accomplish, and they can actually make Roe versus Wade the law of the land. So people's votes are so very, very important on those 2 specific elections, but also on the state level, where there are very, very important issues, like in California, where we have
I think we might have lost the Congresswoman. We'll give it 5 seconds to see if the connection comes back. Oh, there you are. Sorry, we lost you for a second. I'm going to try again and hope this works, fearing that I lost the end of your last answer. But Congresswoman, your colleague Ro Khanna right now has said that these sort of public venting by Democrats right now about the president, that he worries that it could be counterproductive right now. Is that your view? I
actually believe that President Biden has been doing everything that he can, and they have been coming up with solutions that they still have to work on, but they have been coming up with things such as the medication abortion issue, such as working on ensuring that women can cross state lines. And I hope actually that they can make sure that their regulatory agencies also ensure data privacy of women who access abortions or inquire about abortions.
So simple terms, should Democrats, those within your party, stop complaining about the president right now? Is that hurting things?
We all need to work together. And there's so many things that we need to do to ensure that women are taken care of in this situation where 26 states will ban abortion.
Right.
So it is indeed going to take a village to make sure that in the short term, women can access abortion by crossing state lines, but in the long term, ensuring that Roe versus Wade is indeed enshrined into law and that it cannot be overturned.
And let me ask you about one of the frustrations for some of those Democrats right now. These emails released by Kentucky Democratic officials, they seem to show that President Biden had been planning to nominate an anti-abortion lawyer to a lifetime appointment as a federal judge. What does that say to you about the president's understanding of the urgency of this issue?
Well, one thing is that we certainly cannot afford to have anti-abortion judges even further nominated to these positions. We already are feeling the effects of Trump's appointments of the federal judges, and it is setting us back. Of course, it is setting us back enormously with the Supreme Court, which is now in a 6-3 majority against abortion, as well as so many other issues that are critical to Democrats. So I hope that, most of all, that this particular nomination does not go through.
The Women's Health Protection Act that you know so well about, obviously, it would effectively sort of guarantee the right to an abortion in this country. It passed the House last year. It failed in the Senate back in May before the Supreme Court ruling on this issue. You want to put it back on the floor, that bill, once again. Are there more votes, do you believe, do you know, as a function of what we've witnessed over the course of the last month or so?
Well, we actually passed it out of the House on a vote of 218 to 211, and it was the most supported pro-abortion bill passed in the history of Congress. So I believe that those votes will hold. And I do have to say that we must note that the Senate vote was close. It was 49 to 51.
Right.
And we should really hold accountable those two senators that are Republican that say that they are pro-choice. They could have cast their vote for it, and we need to hold them accountable.
Congresswoman Judy Chu, we appreciate your being with us right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.